For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the night of August 14th, 2004, 9-year-old Avery Salazar was among campers at a riverside cabin in the Guadalupe River Hill Country, TX. A sudden night flood swept through, and when the waters receded, she was gone. Despite an extensive investigation and desperate searches, Avery Salazar vanished without a trace. For 18 years, her family lived with agonizing uncertainty, holding onto a glimmer of hope. Then, in the summer of 2022, a discovery was made. A small, distinctive charm bracelet, etched AS, found in a drought-cracked creek bed. Mineral stains on the charms would guide search teams to a collapsed zone beneath a washed-out footbridge, reigniting a cold case. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Avery Salazar and the 18-year quest for the truth. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. The year 2004 brought the familiar Texas heat to the Guadalupe River Hill Country, a landscape of ancient cypress trees and cool, flowing water. It was a place where summer memories were forged, particularly at the riverside cabins that hosted a vibrant youth camp each year. Children arrived from across the state, eager for days filled with swimming, hiking, and the simple joys of nature. This particular summer was no different, promising sun-drenched adventures and the camaraderie that defines childhood. Among these eager campers was 9-year-old Avery Salazar, a girl with bright eyes and an infectious laugh, who had quickly settled into the rhythm of camp life. Her days were a blur of activity, from splashing in the river's shallows to evening bonfires under the vast Texas sky. Everything pointed to a quintessential summer, a period of innocent freedom before the return to school. However, the tranquility of the Guadalupe River could be deceptive. The region was prone to flash floods, a volatile characteristic often forgotten in the gentle flow of summer. On a particular night, the heavens opened with an intensity that defied prediction. A sudden, torrential downpour transformed the placid river into a raging torrent. Within hours, the water levels rose dramatically, breaching its banks and sweeping through the unsuspecting camp. The sudden night flood struck with terrifying speed, giving little warning. Cabins, once sturdy shelters, became vulnerable against the onslaught of water and debris. The sounds of the storm were quickly overtaken by the roar of the river, then by the cries of confusion and fear. As dawn broke, revealing a landscape irrevocably altered, the true scale of the disaster began to emerge. The floodwaters, having crested and begun their slow retreat, left behind a scene of devastation. Trees were uprooted, structures were damaged, and the once orderly campgrounds were now a chaotic expanse of mud and wreckage. In the immediate aftermath, the focus shifted from survival to accountability. Camp counselors, emergency services, and parents alike undertook a frantic headcount. It quickly became apparent that several campers were unaccounted for, their whereabouts unknown in the wake of the deluge. A pall of dread settled over the hill country. Among the missing, the name Avery Salazar resonated with a particularly sharp anguish. Her disappearance, alongside others, was not merely a tragic consequence of the flood. It was a profound mystery, immediately casting a long, dark shadow over the beautiful but now scarred Guadalupe River. The question of what happened to Avery Salazar became the agonizing core of a disaster that had claimed more than just property. In the immediate aftermath of the flood, the Guadalupe River Hill Country transformed into a scene of frantic, desperate activity. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the lingering mist, emergency services converged on the devastated camp, their sirens echoing through the sodden landscape. Local law enforcement, fire departments, and search and rescue teams, bolstered by a growing contingent of volunteers, launched an extensive operation. Every available resource was deployed in the urgent search for the missing campers. Helicopters crisscrossed the altered terrain, their thermal cameras sweeping over the debris-strewn banks, while ground crews, many wading through chest-high water and thick mud, meticulously combed every accessible inch of the riparian zone. The Guadalupe River itself became the primary, most challenging focus of the search. Its waters, still turbulent and swollen, had reshaped its own course. Familiar landmarks were submerged or swept away, replaced by newly formed sandbars and treacherous eddies. Divers faced near-zero visibility in the churning, silt-laden depths, navigating a landscape choked with uprooted trees, twisted metal, and the scattered remnants of the camp. Specialized sonar equipment was brought in, attempting to penetrate the murky waters and map the riverbed for any sign of human presence or large debris that might conceal a body. Every downstream bend, every logjam, every exposed rock face was scrutinized with painstaking detail, driven by the slim hope of a miracle. Days bled into a week, then two, marked by an relentless, exhausting effort. Despite the unprecedented scale of the search, the river yielded no answers. Not a single personal item belonging to Avery Salazar was recovered, let alone any trace of the 9-year-old girl herself. The other unaccounted campers also remained elusive, their fates as mysterious as Avery's. As time wore on, the initial frantic energy of rescue operations slowly, inevitably, gave way to the grim reality of a recovery mission. Hope, once a flickering flame, began to dwindle, replaced by a profound sense of despair. The leads were scarce, then non-existent. The extensive, costly search eventually concluded, not with a resolution but with a void. The Guadalupe River in its destructive power had taken its secrets, and it was not yet ready to give them back. Avery Salazar's disappearance, alongside the others, settled into an agonizing, unresolved mystery. The community was left in anguish, and her family faced a silent, unbearable grief, haunted by the unanswered question of what truly transpired on that catastrophic night. The case, devoid of any tangible evidence, began its slow descent into the annals of cold cases, a persistent, painful enigma etched into the memory of the Texas Hill Country. The immediate, desperate search for Avery Salazar eventually subsided, giving way to a gnawing silence. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the calendar pages inexorably flipped through the years. 2004 receded into memory, followed by 2005, then a decade and a half, until 18 years had passed since the night the Guadalupe River claimed its secrets. For the Salazar family, the passage of time brought no solace, only a deepening void. The empty chair at the dinner table, the unworn birthday dresses, the milestones uncelebrated, each served as a stark, relentless reminder of a life abruptly halted. The camp community, too, bore a collective scar, the idyllic memories of summer forever tainted by the unresolved tragedy. Despite the initial exhaustive efforts, and despite periodic reviews by law enforcement, no new substantial evidence ever surfaced. The river, which had been so thoroughly scoured in the weeks following the flood, remained stubbornly silent. There were no credible sightings, no anonymous tips that led anywhere, no fragments of clothing, no personal effects beyond what was already known to be lost in the chaos. The absence of any tangible clue became the most profound and most frustrating aspect of the investigation. Detectives, though committed, found themselves with nothing new to pursue, no fresh leads to follow. The case, once an active, high-priority investigation, slowly but inevitably receded from the forefront. The files on Avery Salazar, thick with witness statements, search grids, and hydrological reports, gathered dust in the cold case archives. They represented a persistent, painful enigma, a mystery that defied resolution, tucked away but never truly closed. Each passing year diminished the already slim hope of finding answers. Witnesses moved on, memories faded, and the landscape itself continued to change, making any retrospective investigation increasingly challenging. After nearly 2 decades, The prospect of ever understanding what transpired that night on the Guadalupe River seemed to diminish with each sunrise, leaving an enduring ache for those who still held onto the faint possibility of truth. The story of Avery Salazar became one of those cases, forever marked by its beginning, but seemingly destined to remain without an end. 18 years after the flood, the Guadalupe River Hill Country once again faced the raw power of nature, though this time in stark contrast to the deluge of 2004. A prolonged and severe drought gripped Texas, parching the very landscape that had once swollen with uncontrollable water. Rivers and creeks, usually vibrant arteries of the region, dwindled to trickles or vanished entirely, leaving behind exposed beds of sun-baked mud and cracked earth. What had once been submerged now lay bare, revealing long-hidden topography and forgotten debris. It was during this period of extreme desiccation, when the river's historical secrets were forced to the surface, that a profound discovery was made. In the summer of 2022, a local landowner, surveying his property along what was once a meandering tributary of the Guadalupe, stumbled upon an anomaly in a particularly desiccated creek bed. The ground was fissured, a mosaic of deep cracks formed by the relentless sun. Amidst the exposed rocks and hardened sediment, something glinted. It was a small, tarnished piece of jewelry, half buried in the clay. Upon closer inspection, it revealed itself to be a child's charm bracelet, its delicate links encrusted with dried mud. Etched faintly but unmistakably into one of the tiny charms were the initials, A.S. The significance of the artifact was immediate and devastating. News of the find quickly reached authorities, who confirmed the bracelet's identity. This was unequivocally Avery Salazar's charm bracelet, the very one she had been known to wear in the summer of 2004. For nearly 2 decades, the river had held its silence, offering no material evidence of Avery's fate. Now, in its diminished state, it had reluctantly surrendered the first tangible link to the missing 9-year-old. The discovery sent a tremor through the community, a bittersweet jolt of both renewed hope and agonizing pain. For Avery's family, the initial shock gave way to a complex surge of emotions. The bracelet was a confirmation of her presence in the river that night, a heartbreaking validation of their worst fears, yet simultaneously, it was a beacon. It was a concrete piece of her, a physical manifestation of the girl they had mourned for so long without a trace. The pain of the past was reignited, but so too was the possibility of finally understanding what happened. After 18 years of silence, of cold files and fading memories, this small, mud-stained bracelet represented the first substantive clue in a mystery that had haunted the Texas Hill Country for almost 2 decades. The case of Avery Salazar, long dormant, was about to be reopened with a vigor born of this shocking new evidence. The discovery of Avery Salazar's charm bracelet irrevocably altered the trajectory of her cold case. After 18 years of dormancy, the investigation was immediately reopened, shedding its cold case designation to become a priority inquiry once more. The Texas Rangers, in collaboration with local law enforcement, swiftly established a dedicated task force. Game Warden Carter Flynn, a seasoned investigator known for his methodical approach and deep understanding of the region's waterways, was assigned to lead this revitalized effort. His mandate was clear: to leverage this critical new evidence and finally uncover what happened to Avery. Flynn understood that the bracelet's location, though significant, was only the beginning. Its presence in a dried creek bed, miles from the original camp, necessitated a scientific understanding of the Guadalupe River's historical dynamics. To this end, the task force brought in hydrologist Dr. Leela Boone. Dr. Boone, a respected expert in fluvial geomorphology, was tasked with analyzing the river's behavior during the 2004 flood. Her work involved reconstructing the precise flood patterns, water flow volumes, and sediment transport mechanisms from that catastrophic night. Using historical weather data, topographical maps, and eyewitness accounts of the flood's immediate impact. Dr. Boone began to model the river's destructive path, seeking to understand how a small bracelet could have traveled so far and settled in such an unexpected location. Armed with the bracelet and Dr. Boone's evolving hydrological analysis, the investigative team embarked on a comprehensive reevaluation of the past. Every piece of documentation from 2004, once filed away in cold storage, was now meticulously pulled and re-examined with fresh eyes. Original witness statements were scrutinized for overlooked details. Search grids were overlaid with new topographical data, and every photograph taken in the flood's aftermath was reviewed for potential clues that might have been dismissed as irrelevant at the time. The very absence of Avery's body for so long, coupled with the bracelet's discovery, suggested an entirely different scenario than previously considered. A crucial component of this renewed investigation involved re-interviewing individuals connected to the 2004 incident. Camp counselor Theo McKay, a key figure from that tragic summer, was among the first individuals slated for a new interview. The passage of 18 years, coupled with the profound impact of the bracelet's discovery, might have unlocked forgotten details or prompted new perspectives. Other former campers, camp staff, and local residents who had witnessed the flood were also contacted. The hope was that, with the first tangible piece of evidence finally in hand, the collective memory of that devastating night might yield the answers that had eluded authorities for nearly 2 decades. The search for truth had been reignited, guided by a tiny, mud-stained charm. Dr. Leela Boone's expertise became central to transforming the bracelet from a mere artifact into a directional compass. Her initial examination focused not on the metal itself, but on the residues embedded within its delicate etchings and around the charms. Under powerful microscopes and through sophisticated chemical analysis, Dr. Boone began to identify the precise composition of the mineral stains clinging to the bracelet. These were not just generic river sediments. They bore a unique geological signature. She meticulously cataloged the trace elements and crystalline structures, comparing them against known sediment profiles from various sections of the Guadalupe River and its tributaries. The painstaking work yielded a critical match. The specific mineral stains on Avery's bracelet corresponded definitively to silt samples collected from a particular side channel of the Guadalupe River, several miles downstream from the original camp location. This was no longer a broad search. The river had finally given up a precise geographical coordinate. Game Warden Carter Flynn, receiving Dr. Boone's report, immediately understood the profound implications. The vast, undifferentiated search area of 18 years prior had been distilled to a narrow, actionable corridor. The task force swiftly mobilized, directing their renewed efforts to this identified side channel, a narrower, often overlooked arm of the main river that would have been profoundly impacted by the 2004 flood's overflow. The turbulent waters of that night could have easily diverted into such a channel, carrying debris and, tragically, a small bracelet. With the target zone established, the next phase involved advanced technological deployment. Specialized sonar equipment, far more sophisticated than what was available in 2004, was brought in. Teams systematically traversed the side channel, meticulously mapping its submerged topography. The sonar pulses penetrated the murky depths, creating detailed images of the riverbed, searching for anomalies, for anything that did not belong to the natural flow of the environment. Hours turned into days of scanning, the screens displaying endless patterns of rock and sediment. Then, a distinct, unnatural signature emerged. The sonar detected a significant disruption in the riverbed, a large, irregular mass obscured by accumulated silt and debris. Further, more focused scans revealed a distinct structural pattern, a collapse zone. This was not a natural rock formation, but the unmistakable remnants of a man-made structure. Beneath the layers of sediment, the sonar clearly outlined the twisted metal and splintered wood consistent with a bridge. Specifically, it indicated the remains of a small footbridge, known to have spanned this very side channel in 2004, but which had been reported washed out in the immediate aftermath of the flood. The discovery was chillingly precise. The mystery surrounding Avery Salazar had not been in the main river's vastness, but hidden beneath a forgotten, collapsed structure in a secondary channel, waiting 18 years for the right clue to guide the search. The river had finally revealed its devastating secret. The sonar's chilling revelation of a collapsed zone beneath a washed-out footbridge provided the definitive, tragic explanation for Avery Salazar's disappearance. The investigative teams, now armed with precise coordinates, launched a recovery operation at the targeted side channel. Divers and specialized equipment carefully navigated the silt-choked remnants of the bridge, a structure that had once been a harmless crossing for campers, but had become a death trap on that catastrophic night in 2004. The evidence suggested that the sheer force of the sudden night flood, amplified by debris carried downstream, had caused the small footbridge to buckle and collapse. Avery, likely caught in the torrent near the bridge, would have been instantly overwhelmed, her small body swept into the collapsing structure and subsequently buried by the shifting riverbed and accumulating sediment. The recovery effort confirmed the devastating reality. Though 18 years had passed, the site yielded further personal effects, identifiable as belonging to Avery, intertwined with the twisted metal and splintered wood of the collapsed bridge. While the outcome was heartbreaking, it brought an end to the agonizing uncertainty that had plagued the Salazar family for nearly 2 decades. The confirmation, though grim, allowed them to finally understand what had happened to their daughter, to place her within the narrative of the flood, and to begin the difficult journey of grief with the truth in hand. This resolution was a testament to the unwavering dedication of individuals like Game Warden Carter Flynn, whose commitment to the cold case never faltered, and the indispensable scientific expertise of hydrologist Dr. Leela Boone. It was Dr. Boone's meticulous analysis of the mineral stains on Avery's bracelet, pinpointing the exact side channel, that had transformed a seemingly impossible mystery into a solvable puzzle. Her work, combined with Flynn's methodical approach and the deployment of advanced sonar technology, had collectively peeled back the layers of time and sediment, forcing the river to relinquish its long-held secret. The story of Avery Salazar became an enduring, poignant reminder of the Guadalupe River's dual nature, a source of idyllic beauty and recreation, but also a formidable, unpredictable force. Her disappearance, once an unsolved enigma, now served as a stark illustration of the river's power and the fragile line between life and loss in the face of nature's fury. While the outcome was undeniably tragic, the truth had finally emerged after nearly 2 decades of silence. The long search had concluded, not with a miracle, but with understanding, allowing for a measure of peace and a definitive, if sorrowful, legacy for the 9-year-old girl who vanished in the Texas Hill Country flood.